Hello, this is petitioner and future lawyer Vivian Lehman, respectfully requesting of the Law School Admission Council to take custody of me, ad litem ad hoc, for deliverance into a law school which specializes in litigation, beginning in the fall semester of 2013. My aspiration is to become a trial attorney focusing on assisting whistleblowers. My ancestral legal history began in the city of Potsdam, Germany. It was here where a woman by the name of Doris Berend Lehman had several children, including a son, Siegfried Lehman, who is here seen with his two young sons. Siegfried was a practicing prominent attorney who bequeathed upon all his descendants very powerful legal philosophy. Quote, "A good attorney earns as much money for his client as he charges in fees." Unquote. His gift of wisdom was made universally, without requiring application of the principle of cypre. Siegfried is here again seen celebrating his 25th wedding anniversary with his wife and two young sons, now grown. Behind them, portrayed upon the wall, is a not-forgotten ancestor. In addition to these family members, Siegfried had a brother, Leopold Lehman. They had a cousin, Sam Pizer. Leopold and Sam are my direct ancestors. Sam was also a practicing partner of the law firm. Sam had a daughter, Selma Pizer Lehman. Unlike most women of her time, she could read and write. She also embraced the modern technology of photography and maintained meticulous records. The evidence here is prima facie. This was her father in 1938. She knew she had to ensure that her testimony would always be considered admissible evidence without requiring application of the family record hearsay exception rules. She is the exception to this exception, and her estate never expired. And Selma left no room for controversy as she created this record of herself at the peak of her youth and beauty, enabling all viewers direct experience for her love of her youngest son. Anyone who would challenge this would lose to a summary judgment motion, as her estate would sue for defamation of photographic character. There would be no need for a discovery schedule assembled by the attorneys representing the parties to the action, nor would the court need to monitor this activity while proceeding toward trial. Before Selma purchased her own camera late in life, she used a studio on the Berliner Straße in Görlitz, Germany, where she is here again seen. This time she is with her mother, Marie Posner Pizer, as well as her firstborn, the future Dr. Ernst Leopold Lehmann, medical doctor, urological surgeon, my grandfather. Selma's husband was Dr. Max Leopold Lehmann, also a medical doctor. The subject of his pathology dissertation was the appendix. The document was dedicated to Kaiser Wilhelm. The cover page is in both the languages of Latin and German, as it was customary at the time to use the Latin language to describe medical concepts. In Dr. Max's lifetime, other scientists discovered bacteria. He therefore formulated a last will and testament decreeing that upon his death he be cremated so these little creatures would never consume him. He eventually served in the World War I German army. He fell at the Argonne while treating patients at the front line of France. As he was fighting, Selma was caring for her two young sons. They had to travel west, away from the Russians, but she continued her photographic endeavors by creating Herwald und Ich upon her arrival in Posen. Before these law and medical practices were established, another lineage was establishing itself in Germany. They came from Russia and arrived in the German nation of Prussia. There they found no laws characterized as the second restatement of contracts, nor the statute of frauds, nor any tenant-landlord laws. Instead, they found free land and established themselves as the Friedlanders. The Friedlanders eventually betrothed themselves to the Kaspers. In the mid-19th century, Marie Friedlander Kasper, of this photo, had a child by the name of Helena Kasper Barlach. Helena had 4 daughters, including this daughter named Betty. Helena was an accomplished artist who was employed by the Huschenreuther Company. This was a manufacturer of fine china. The company of Rosenthal eventually purchased it. This is still considered some of the most prestigious and expensive tableware in the world. Helena's collection is named after her favorite daughter, Margareta. This was her second child and my grandmother. Around 1930, Huschenreuther established a factory in Berlin, Germany. Helena recommended of her physician son-in-law that he establish a modest medical practice down the street, so that he may benefit from the very generous health insurance policies protecting their workers. At the time, it was customary for a doctor to establish a Park Avenue-style practice on the Kurfürstendamm. And also at the time, at a local convention, the other physicians inquired of each other as to what happened to their patients and who was this mystery physician by the name of Dr. Lehman who seemed to have all of their patients. They did not know he was standing there. Helena's husband was Ernst Barlach. One of my grandmother's favorite anecdotes of her childhood involved the family dog that was one day kidnapped. Eventually, as my great-grandfather was walking through the village, the dog recognized his master from a long distance away. The canine broke free and ran into his awaiting arms. The kidnapper attempted to make the claim that this was his dog. All the townspeople wailed, "That is his dog." There was no need to invoke the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure Act. There was no need to change the place of venue from the street into a courtroom. No judge had to set a precedent as to whether or not the dog's excited utterances and present sense impressions should be considered as per the human hearsay exception rules. The dog independently prevailed, pro se. Ernst Barlach was a sculptor and sketch artist who changed German culture during his lifetime of 1870 through 1938. Although many of his works were lost during World War II, these are still preserved at the Ernst Barlach Museum in Hamburg, as well as a few other locations, including the Magdeburg Cathedral, dedicated to the saints Maurice and Catherine. My grandmother was born in 1899 in Waldenburg, Germany. She was raised in the Hanseatic city of Danzig. She became one of the first women to enter the German universities around 1918. She established herself as a teacher of math and science of a girls' school, and later helped my grandfather with his medical practice. She eventually came to the United States, where she earned a Ph.D. at New York University. For her dissertation, she interpreted the dramas written by Ernst Barlach with the archetypes of psychoanalyst Carl Gustav Jung, also pronounced Young, spelled J-U-N-G. She then became an instructor of Queens College in New York City. Her connection to her father remained very strong throughout her 91 years. Her month and day of death was October 24th, the same as him, although 52 years later. My mother was born in 1935. She came to the United States and attended the City College of New York. She earned a B.A. in history while putting my father through the Graduate School of Columbia University. He earned a Ph.D. in economics. My father then became an associate professor of the City University system. I was born on November 9, 1966 in Manhattan, and was raised 45 miles north of this borough. I was educated in the Bedford Central School system. As soon as possible, my mother made certain that I understood that I would go to college and eventually earn a postgraduate degree. I inherited my grandmother's passion for literature. For Halloween of my junior year of high school, I attempted to step into the world of the scarlet letter as created by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I tried to be Hester Prynne. My mother put the costume together from unusable garments of my closet, a few remnants of the attic, and a few elements of my early childhood, as well as a few stitches. It cost nothing and caused a sensation in the English department. I entered college at age 16 and attended Lehman College of the City University of New York. I was editor-in-chief of my college newspaper. One of our most successful issues headlined a press conference given by the mayor of New York City for the students of the city universities. The mayor was Ed Koch. I sent one of my best and titled it, "Koch Meets Our Press." At Lehman College, I majored in anthropology and minored in physics. At my graduation, one of my professors offered me a glass of champagne. I had to decline. I was underage. After college, my mother decided it was time for me to continue her tradition of sewing. As she was demonstrating, I was researching and developing my anthropological skills. When I was 25 years old, she died. I decided to proceed on both endeavors. I needed a wardrobe with subject matter jurisdiction. I selected a chieftainship in the urban jungle of White Plains, New York. This courthouse proved an ideal location to acquire information on the applications of the theories of animal behavior to human function. The attorneys behave as chimpanzees and baboons, yet mysteriously believe themselves to be human beings. I formulated everything into a book that I titled Homo Sapiens Modern, Our Archaic State. I had a publisher and originally a wonderful business relationship. New management changed that. Their booksellers discontinued their contracts, and many authors, including myself, had to leave. It is now privately published only. I took it with me to Manhattan one day. I was on jury duty. That morning I decided I had to inform the federal court of my history as an anthropologist. I decided that because the research was performed with the knowledge of the Supreme Court judges and without the knowledge of the attorneys because they never asked, my participation at trial must be identical. So I prepared a letter addressed exclusively to the judge. At the final selection process, I was seated in the jury box. I noticed the baboon and chimpanzee conditions of each of the attorneys and made handwritten notes on the letter. Quote, "The defense attorney has very little confidence in his case. The plaintiff's attorney has similar, but not his severe problem." Unquote. At the end of the voir dire, the judge asked of us to explain anything else which may influence our decision. I answered that I wrote him a letter. At first he was reluctant, but I was insistent. He allowed the law secretary to pass it to him. The judge saw my handwritten note, then read my explanation of my background, and then demanded to see my attachment. I handed him the book. He frantically looked through it, trying to find the information. Then he threw me and the book out of the courtroom. The trial ended with a jury verdict awarding the plaintiff $5,000, an award equal to a small claims case, not a federal court action. My sewing continued as I began to prepare for my eventual career in a law office. I observed at the courthouse that females do not dress in feminine style, but rather embrace the classic masculine business suit. So I decided I must introduce pink and purple into trial practice and procedure. I continued sewing by acquiring an engineering patent. I invented the hinging veil. It is a bridal veil that looks good before and after the unveiling. This is not the prototype, but rather an earlier draft. I would like to emphasize that this is an engineering patent. I monopolized the structure, not the appearance. For employment, I was trained at Lord & Taylor department stores as a fashion merchandiser. I currently work for the company of Baker & Taylor Books that markets its products in Michael's Crafts. I care for 2 stores located in New Britain and Newington, Connecticut. One of the assignments was to display these cookbooks priced under $10. We were expected to pile these into a dump bin. Instead, I created this end cap display. The blue corrugate was rescued by me from the garbage of Walmart. As seasons changed, so too did the merchandise. What seems to be the final permanent exhibit of this end cap is all of the backstock coupled by the store's seasonal flowers. For Christmas of 2011, I nagged the manager until he gave me a few more end caps. I had to invent my own diagrams for Christmas product placement because the only fixtures that were available to me were the wrong fixtures. But nonetheless, our statistics often drove the book department of the store into the top 10 list of the Northeast. I also work for 3 other companies. My duties include using the Outlook email system, reviewing Excel Access spreadsheets, as well as occasionally composing a Word document. My computer training was at the New Horizons Computer Learning Center. I devote some of my free time to the Deep River Congregational Church of Connecticut. It is part of the United Church of Christ. My favorite activity is lay reader. It has been my best opportunity to reinforce the skills I was not allowed to graduate college without. I had to know how to stand before an audience and be heard. I am now ready to move on to the next endeavor. As my 46th birthday is approaching, my physicians and their sonograms have assured me that I have the body of a 25-year-old. I would like to ask of legal validation of this age and request of you to acknowledge that my legs are compliant with the statute of frauds. Thank you so very much.